Welcome back to C++ with Miyoshi. We're going to talk today about branching or decision making using switch case. Now, switch case is not tons different than ifs, but they are if and if else, but they're nice and they're a different way. You could probably do everything, well, you can do everything with that you can with if and else, except maybe one or two things that are a little bit nicer or a little bit different and nicer that you can do with switches. So here it is. Switches are limited to variables that are integer data type, so either ints, char, floats, long, or not floats, ints, chars, long, and old data type called short, booleans, and I said character already, put those guys there. And what we're doing is check to see if this variable is equal to each of these little guys there. So switch, important things, you have to have this curly braces at the front and the end of your switch after the word switch in the open parentheses and close parentheses. A single variable goes in there, and that again is going to be an integer data type. And all we're going to do is each case is checking to see if var is equal to 3 in case the first case. In this case, I'm just going to do a printf good, and then I've got this little break. The break says go down to the next statement after the curly brace, and then it's going to keep continuing on. Again, if I have a 5, if the var is equal to 5, then I'll just print out nice or something like that. You break, come down beyond the curly brace. If it's 17, if var is 17, I'll do amazing and break again, come down below the curly brace. Or if it's anything other than those three guys there, I'll have this thing called default. Default is a different case. It's if none of these guys is true, then it'll just do the default. And in this case, it's just going to print out oops, and then it's going to output beyond there. Now, if I didn't have that guy in there, it would still work perfectly fine. But if it's anything else, it's just going to come down there past the curly brace, not giving the user any other output or any other branching, if you will, for the other cases there. Okay? That's the first kind of nice little guy there. So that's using an integer data type. Now, if I happen to use a character data type, and I have switch ants, and ants has to be a character in this case, I need to make sure I put single quotes around my different cases. So here I have switch ants, and I have case A, lowercase a with a colon, and a case uppercase A with a colon. And I'm going to do some operations there and then do a break. If I have this guy here, it's to show me that I have more than one thing. That would be like an or. So it's kind of like this. If ants is equal to A or ants equal to uppercase A. It's very similar to that. It's going to do the same thing in these curly braces, as I do between the case and the break. Okay, so that's just kind of an example, show you how I can do that with ifs. If I have a case Q, or a case Q, or a case lowercase x, or a case uppercase x, so maybe this is quitting the program or whatever I'm doing, then I'll do these operations there, and then I'll break out, go down below the curly brace. These are just showing you two different ways, where I have case and case. These cases are the same. I'm going to do the same thing whether it's any of those guys. I'll do the same thing whether it's those guys, so I can be horizontally together or vertically. It doesn't matter in this particular case. Okay, that's the case. Switch case using single or using characters. Now make sure if you're doing these guys, if I need to make, maybe I have a case with a number, make sure I include that number in single quotes as well. This is one of my things that my students in my class have often make mistakes, and that is where they put 2 characters inside my single quotes there. And you won't get a compiler error most of the time, but you will get an error certainly when you run your code. So far what I've shown you is that you can basically do the exact same things with ifs and switches. There's one nice thing about switches that comes about when we forget this break. Well, maybe we're not forgetting it when we don't use the break, and that is kind of a cascading effect, which is kind of nice. So here I have switch num, and in this case I have a specific thing that I'm doing. Maybe I'm just converting Roman numerals, at least Roman numerals 1 through 4. And in this case, you can see that if my number is a 1, it's going to print out a single I. Or if it's a 4, that's going to print out an IV. And I'm just ignoring the other guys there. Maybe they're down below there. But it's pretty simple, right? Single I, that's a 1. An IV, that's a 4. Well, what happens if it's a 2? Well, in this case, when a number is a 2, when num is a 2, then it's going to come down here to case 2. It's going to print out an I. Well, notice there's no break here. So it's going to keep going. It's going to see the case 1 but doesn't do anything there. It's going to print out another I. So now I have an I and an I. Well, that's kind of nice. And then it's going to break and it's going to come down below the curly brace. Or if it happens to be, if num happens to be a 3, it's going to come out, it's going to print my I. Then it's going to not see a break, so it's going to jump down to the next one. It's going to do another I. It's going to not, there's no break there either, so it's going to do another I. So it's going to have 3 I's in a row and then finally break. So the output of the 3 I's, or the Roman numeral 3 will be that guy. The output for 2 will be 2. And of course, the output for a single single would be a single 1 for my Roman numerals. So this little cascading effect is really nice, and it's a beautiful thing about switch in C++. So again, you can do most of these things except for this guy here with ifs, but it's another way to branch using switch case in C++. So hopefully you enjoyed it and have another way, nice little tool in your toolbox and when you're programming C++. And hopefully you tune in again for more C++ and hopefully you subscribe too. So thanks again and hopefully see you back next time for more C++ with Miyoshi.